nothing tells you it's time to get out there like, oh my god, there's people playing. So, back to Tom and me in here in the booth. Sonny, you're killing it on that Who's That Magic card. And we are looking forward to seeing you back here in September. It'd be good to have you back. So that looks like David. He has 3 lands: Tranquil Expanse, Forest, Jungle Hollow, Tortured Existence, Golgari Brownscale, Satyr Wayfinder, and a Commune with Nature. So he's going to be messing around with his graveyard a lot. 2 Swamps, Combage Witches, Chittering Rats, Sign in Blood, Phyrexian Rager, Sign in Blood. So that's Dason on his mono black. We talked about that earlier. We're expecting to see some Gray Merchant of Asphodels, otherwise Gary's. Tom's on that one. So we'll expect to see that coming out of there. David's deck is based around Tortured Existence. Can you pull that card up for us, Jake? It's a way to sacrifice creatures to get value out of the sacrifice. So he's able to filter through his deck and find tools. He's got a lot of tool creatures, but he wants a well-stocked graveyard to be able to use them. So I believe you sacrifice a creature, you return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. Or you choose and discard to put a creature card from a graveyard to your hand. So Satyr Wayfinder is filling up his graveyard right now. The top card is a Battlefield Scrounger, which is I believe a centaur that lets him refresh his graveyard. It's a way for him not to deck himself. And then I didn't get a good look at the other creatures in the graveyard. But it's a very interesting deck. A lot of moving pieces in that one. So,
sound like a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. Okay, that's a Golgari Brownscale, which has it's an ability where he can scavenge. Where he
can grab something.
He exiles that creature, and it's a 2/2. So by exiling, he puts 2 +1/+1 counters on it on another creature. Or no, I'm sorry, that's Golgari Brownscale, which dredges. Never mind. Darn it, Jake, you put it up there before I said it. So it's a dredge card. So on his next turn, instead of drawing, he can dredge, put the Brownscale in his hand, put the top 2 cards into the graveyard. Looks like he drew a Perilous Mirror. Dason has a Combage Witches, which taps to deal 1 damage to any target and 1 damage to himself. So he's reading the Tortured Existence. Most likely the first time he's ever seen that card. Not a card that you see anywhere outside of Pauper. And not a very intuitive card to know what you need to do against it.
It's the original Ravnica, that Golgari Brownscale, right?
Yes.
So dredges that kind of mechanic from that block. It scavenges the mechanic from the second Ravnica block, right?
Right. I believe it's scavenge. Now I'm beginning to wonder myself. I second guess myself very quickly. Sonny, I know you might know. Although you're more of an older card player, as you showed with Foxfire. So.
Perilous Mirror.
Right.
It's actually from the second Mirrodin block.
Yeah, Scars of Mirrodin.
Yeah.
This is the 25th anniversary edition. The nice thing about that is they put the original print. They put the set symbol in the text box.
See it now. I see it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the cards in 25th edition, even the ones from sets that did not originally have a symbol, have a symbol there to tell you what they're from. So Dason played a Sign in Blood, which he paid 2 life, he drew 2 cards. And David is activating the dredge ability of the Brownscale to put 2 more cards in the graveyard. I thought, that's a Spore Frog and a Battlefield Scrounger. Spore Frog, a very interesting card. It's a 1 green mana, 1/1 frog. He can sacrifice it for a fog effect, prevent all combat damage. The way this deck is set with the Tortured Existence, he can perpetually prevent all combat damage.
I see.
So once he gets the loop set up, Dason will never be able to deal damage in combat. So there he's discarding the brown scale to the Tortured Existence again. Get back the Perilous Mirror. Showing Dason the steps. And casting the mirror. And so we can expect next turn on his draw step, he's going to get that brown scale right back in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're very early in the game. We're already seeing the power of the Tortured Existence here. We got Dason looking through his hand saying, what the heck can I do? Black doesn't answer enchantments at all. So the Tortured Existence is going to be on the board for the rest of this game. There's just nothing Dason can do about it. There's a Duress. The only option, I believe, is the card that he's looking at right now, Commune with Nature. He's got the brown scale and Tranquil Thicket in his hand. Tranquil Thicket, he can cycle away on Dason's end step to draw a different card. So Chittering Rats in Dason's hand needs a permanent on the battlefield, and Dason puts that permanent on top of David's library.
Mm-hmm.
There can be a point in the game where Dason is locking David out of playing any more Magic by putting the same card
on top of his library
over and over. Yep.
Mm-hmm. In this matchup, it doesn't.
If he can get rid of the Tortured Existence, because that will get it off the battlefield.
Yeah.
So David playing the brown scale. The cards are right in the glare. That's a Grave Scabbler, I believe. It's from a Future Sight. Just Grave Scabbler. Thank you. So, Tortured Existence, you discard the creature. Madness allows you to cast it when you discard it. So, and if it's cast with its discard cost, you may return a creature card from the graveyard to your hand. And unlike Gravecrawler, or Gravedigger, I'm sorry, this one can be any creature in any graveyard. Gets returned to its owner's hand. So David's doing a bunch of Tortured Existence shenanigans over there. I saw him just discard the brown scale to get back the Grave Scrabbler, discard the Grave Scrabbler to get back the brown scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
And cast the Grave Scrabbler off of Madness to get another creature back to his hand. Looks like the Battlefield Scrounger. That's a card out of Odyssey, I believe. Odyssey block, I know that much. Like I said, a Centaur. Let's see. I'm going to try and pull it up, see if I can beat Jake to it. Alright, so it's a 3/3 Centaur Threshold. Put 3 cards from your graveyard on the bottom of your library is the cost to use the ability. Battlefield Scrounger gets +3/+3 until end of turn. You can only activate that ability once and only if he has Threshold. So like I said, it's a way to get cards from your graveyard on the bottom.
Yeah, to keep you from decking yourself.
Yep. That card, in the early days of Magic Online, there was a format called Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very common card to see in Emperor. Because those games tended to go very long. And that was a way to keep yourself from losing to decking. I miss Emperor, Tom. It was a fun format. Okay, it looks like Dason was able to kill... I'm not familiar with that spell right there.
I think all he had out was the Palladium Mirror.
Well, he killed the Grave Scrabbler.
Mm-hmm.
Just not sure what spell he used to kill it.
Kind of blinked out there for a second while that was happening.
Yeah, we had a gap in our feed over here. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
Jake, what happened to the brainstorm counter? I guess it's not that relevant in this game, but I bet Jake would not be able to keep up with the Tortured Existence counter for every time that David
No,
activated
no.
that Tortured Existence. That seems like it would be a bit crazy. So Perilous Mirror coming back. Satyr Wayfinder coming back, putting more cards into the graveyard. Ooh, that's a bad one for David. No creatures at all in that pile. Just a Commune with Nature and another Tortured Existence. He is able to play the Golgari Rot Farm, return a Swamp. And back to Dason. Luckily, Dason has not been able to get threats on board. So he's not putting any pressure at all on David right now. Okay, there's our Chittering Rats. When that enters the battlefield, like we said, he can put a permanent on top of David's library. Or, I'm sorry, a card from David's hand on top of the library. That's how he locks him out. That's about what it feels like how many times he's activated. So that would be accurate, I think. So there's a second Chittering Rat. So now David has put 2 cards from his hand on top of the library. But thanks to that brown scale in his graveyard, he's able to dredge it away.
It's a very difficult matchup for Dason, yeah.
Yeah, Dason's answers are not lining up very well against this. And that's the thing about Tortured Existence. It plays a different game than most people are sitting down to play. Mono Black generally has good answers for most every deck. Mm-hmm. It's got Disruption, it's got Creature Kill. But against Dredge changes that recipe quite a bit. And then the Tortured Existence is just... That changes it a whole lot more. So now David getting back to Spore Frog. So it looks like he's showing a little bit of respect to the Chittering Rats. Grave Scrabbler trigger now on the stack, so he's returning another creature to his hand. The Spore Frog went back off the Tortured Existence. It looks like he's getting a Battlefield Scrounger. Now that's once each turn he can do it. So he can do it on Dason's turn, making that a 6/6 creature. He can also do it on his turn when he attacks. The key thing is that each time you activate it, you get further away from having Threshold. Mm-hmm. So... looks like a Gurmag Angler in Dason's hand, as he checks his graveyard to see how cheap it is. Now, I don't know if Dason has it in his sideboard, but if I had any sort of graveyard hate, Bajuka Bogs, Relica Progenitus, after this game...
Tormund's Crypt, Pauper,
Tormund's Crypt, I believe, was printed as uncommons, but not common. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, any sort of graveyard hate is instantly coming into my deck against David right now. Tormod's Crypt was printed as a common in Chronicles, so it is legal in this format. Tormod's Crypt is 0 mana artifact. Tap, sacrifice it to remove all cards in target player's graveyard from the game. Oubliette, at least that's how I say it. I don't know what the official pronunciation is. That's a solid card for Dason. Actually costs 3. There's a little 1 blending into the card there. That's an issue with a lot of Arabian Nights cards. There's a light and a dark print. So... but that is a select a creature in play when it is cast, and it kind of Oblivion rings the creature away. Jake, you weren't here when we mentioned it earlier. Jake, a huge fan of Mono Black Control. Mm-hmm. People tell me Jake knows how to play Magic. I've seen him touching cards, so I guess he knows how. And apparently his Dason is actually using, this is Jake's deck. So Jake is really pulling for Dason here, hoping to get a good showing out of it. So we'll see, but right now that Tortured Existence seems to have set David up pretty well for success. Now, if he hits a Gary, I'm seeing 6 Devotion right now. Gary would be 8. And that would... David's at 33 life off those brown scales. All right, so there's Gary. So David's going to lose 8. Dason will gain 8. And the board right now is clogged up. I don't think David's going to swing for the final points of damage. But it's also clogged up to the point where Dason doesn't really have a good way to get that damage in either. Now, if he keeps finding Garys, that will help towards Dason getting back in this game and winning it. But
well, the next time it'll be 10, right?
Devotion's just going up. David does not have a lot of ways to kill Dason's stuff from what we've seen. The Perilous Mirror deals chunks of 2, so you could probably start attacking with that, because if it dies, it's just going to come right back, and when it dies, it gets to deal 2 damage. When it dies, it deals 2 damage to a creature or player. So he can keep attacking with the Perilous Mirror. They're 1/1s. Dason either has to take the damage, so that's 2 damage that just got through, or block his creatures. And any creature that Dason blocks that with is going to kill it, which will make it 2 damage instead. So that's David's route to victory right now. Now, every time Dason plays Gary, that becomes a much harder road.
Yeah.
So... So it looks like Dason getting in there with the Gurmag Angler. That feels like it might just help feed David's cycle by killing his creatures for him. There goes the brown scale again. That's a Horror of the Waste and a Stinkweed Imp. I'm killing my battery tonight, verifying all these card names on my app. Horror of the Broken Lands, not Horror of the Wastes. Card that every time you cycle or discard a card, it gets bigger. Thank you, Jake. Whenever you cycle or discard, it gets +2/+1 until end of turn. Now, David also hit the Stinkweed Imp with that dredge. Stinkweed Imp is a dredge 5, but it's a 1/2 flyer with Death Touch. Looks like he's choosing to get another Satyr to fill the graveyard some more. So I see a Crypt Rat, a Brown Scale, and I believe a Fume Spitter was that first card that he flipped. Crypt Rats is a great way for a black deck to close out the game. Crypt Rat is a 3-mana 1/1 creature. For X mana, it deals X damage to each creature and player. So, good way to clear the board and get the final points of damage in as long as you're ahead on life.
Like a miracle bonfire. In black.
Yeah. Now, the caveat, he can only spend black mana on it. So right now he's got, I'm seeing 3 black mana. So the most damage he can deal is 3 with it. Dason, on the other hand, if he had it, could do quite a bit. Thank you for the art there, Jake. That was one of my all-time favorite cards. And if we're ever doing a Chaos Draft where that's in one of the packs, I will go all in on that card in a heartbeat. If you have any way to give it lifelink, so that you pay 5 if there's 2 creatures and another player.
Wow.
That's 5 creatures, each taking 5 damage. So you gain 25 when you do that. So Lifelinking Crypt Rats are pretty fun.
Where's that from?
It's originally in Visions. That's the 7th edition print. It's only been printed the 2 times. It was a common in Visions, I believe. Yep. Common in Visions, uncommon in 7th. Currently, we were talking about the affordability of Pauper. Crypt Rats is $2.67 on TCG Player right now. So, very reasonable card. Very effective. Strong card. Tortured Existence, the card that's enabling David's whole deck right now.
I was just wondering that.
$2.25. So if you're looking to get into Magic and you don't have a lot of money, Pauper, very diverse format and not an expensive one to get into.
It's a little difficult to find some of the cards.
It can be hard.
You're definitely gonna have to use the internets.
It can. A lot of the local game stores not going to have all these cards,
right?
Because
unless you're looking for the foil versions, and those are very expensive.
Foil, foil is a whole other issue.
Yeah.
If you want to bling out your deck and look for all the premium cards, it can be a pricey format. But just to get into play, it's pretty accessible. So it looks like Dason going on the aggressive side again. Or Dason, I'm sorry. David has a Spore Frog over there, so he doesn't have to take any damage at all from this.
Doesn't look like he's going to.
Nope. And that leaves Dason with no blockers at all. David has a Carrion Feeder, which he can sacrifice creatures to make it bigger. He's going to dredge back that brown scale. I'm looking... I see 7 points of damage on David's side right now across his creatures. Dason does have 2 creatures left back to block. Brown scale is going to the graveyard again, bringing back the Spore Frog. So now we're at the point now where David is negating every single attack step by Dason. And he's still swinging with that Perilous Mirror, which, no matter what Dason does, is going to get damage in. There's a Victim of Night. So, I believe he's doing this on David's end step, which is going to get him around the Spore Frog for a turn. Because now David had to sacrifice it or let it die on his turn, and that prevent all combat damage will not be effective on Dason's turn. Yep. So here's the untap. That looked like another Victim. No, that's a Weebliette. So that's the only real target he had to choose this turn. Because with Carrion Feeder, if Dason had picked any other creature, it would have just fed the Carrion Feeder. Carrion Feeder, a 1/1, can't block, sacrifice a creature, put a 1/1 counter on it.
It's a pretty solid aristocrat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Dason might turn this game around here. So David taking that opportunity to sacrifice the Perilous Mirror to the Feeder.
Yeah.
To get 2 damage in on Dason. But now Dason has a free attack. And David's only got 1 creature that's going to be able to stick around or block. And it looks like he's blocking the Gurmag Angler. And that's 8 damage getting through. So Dason's saying, hey, I'm not as far out of this game as you might have thought I was.
Yeah, he's literally 2 Garys away.
Yeah. Jake, I'm sorry I doubted the mono black. I'm sorry I doubted your deck. Jake says he accepts my apology. I really thought David was pulling away with this game. I mean, Dason's still a 5. It's not an easy fight back. But as the only one with any sort of board presence creature-wise. Alright, so David's going to get back to Spore Frog. Also getting back to Grave Scrabbler, which will probably get a Perilous Mirror or the Carrion Feeder. Looks like Perilous Mirror. That goes to his hand. He casts a Spore Frog, so now he's all set for next turn. Except Dason has an end of turn. I think Dason... Oh. He's making this interesting.
Yeah.
Oh! That's a heck of a top deck.
I think that's coming in for 10 or 12.
4, 10, 11, 12. 12 by my count. Puts Dason up to 17.
Wow.
That's a turnaround.
Does a swing here do it? No. It's 11. He's at 11.
Puts him up to 19. That was a heck of a turnaround.
Because it's definitely... he would definitely block the Angler.
Oh, I forgot the Weebly hat down at the bottom. See, and this is why Gary, despite being a 5-mana 2/4, is a ridiculous card in Pauper. Very strong. So David forced to block down to 1 life. And he throws in the towel. He had no way to feed that Tortured Existence in hand. That was a heck of a turnaround.
Oh, that was interesting.
Very well played, Dason. I just got educated.
Yeah. Not to give up so easily. Youth has its advantages.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Baruch's also a mono black player at heart, and I think he saw that one coming too. Wow.
Also, kudos to Jake, I guess.
Yeah.
Putting that together.
Well, I got a loud boom in my earpiece.
Oh, nice.
So he made sure I knew. So, very fun to watch. David, I thought you had it. But it doesn't look like he tried to play a long game or anything. It's just...
Yeah.
The game turned and Dason was able to flip it. So going to sideboarding, I still think Dason...
David was only on, 4 lands? 5 lands?
He had the Golgari Rot Farm was one of them. That produces 2 mana. I believe he had 5 lands, so that would have been 6 mana available to him. And yeah, that kind of clinched him because Tortured Existence costs 1. Hey, Ben, if you can make sure he shuffles the Existence in there. There we go. Dason saw it. But, yeah, that makes it so that he's not able to do all the cycling he wants and cast his creatures. He could only do one or the other. So, I think if Dason could fit in a 5th Gary in that deck, he'd be sliding it in there. That card just completely turned the game around for him.
Both times.
Yeah. First one bought on the time, the second one closed it out. Now, I didn't see what he's got. Like I said, I'm guessing any sort of graveyard removal or anything interacting with the graveyard is coming in. As far as David's side, we didn't see a lot of ways for him to get rid of stuff on the board.
No.
And against a mono black control deck, if you let it sit there, it's going to hurt you in the end, like we saw. So I think he needs to find ways to remove the creatures off the board on Dason's side. Because the majority of his 2/2 creatures have 2 black in their mana cost.
Yeah.
Alright, so David presumably on the play. I see a Tortured Existence, looks like a Rot Farm, a Barren Moor. Okay, this is Dason's hand. We have 2 Swamps, Barren Moor, Geth's Verdict, Phyrexian Rager, Tendrils of Despair, and Duress. So, Geth's Verdict forces David to sacrifice a creature, and some other stuff. We got a Golgari Brownscale, Gurmag Angler, Tortured Existence, 4 lands. It's a Jungle Hollow and a Baron Moor. So, turn 1, he can either play a Jungle Hollow or a Tortured Existence. He went with the dual land that gains him a life. And Dason's hand. Can we get another look at Dason's hand when you get a chance? So we're leading with the Duress. Okay, Dason promptly putting his hand down on the table. So, yeah, Tortured Existence is the only option he has, and that's the only one he wanted to get rid of anyway. So back to David's turn. Probably regretting the Jungle Hollow, because he really wanted that Tortured Existence. That's the key to his whole deck. Alright, so Phyrexian Rager is going to deal damage to Dason, but draw him a card. And the Tendrils card in his hand is actually Tendrils of Corruption. It's a 1 black, 3 colorless instant. Deals X damage to target creature, and Dason gains X life, where X is the number of swamps he controls. And there we have it on screen. Different art in his hand. He had the original art in his hand, but same card. So, in a mono black deck, that's going to be a big swing again, just like Gary produced. Looks like David found a second copy of Tortured Existence and wastes no time in getting it onto the battlefield. He also played his third Jungle Hollow. Dason drawing a swamp. Cycling a Baron Moor to find another swamp, I think. Gets in the attack and passes turn. There's a Fume Spitter. Fume Spitter sacrifice to put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. It's a spirit from Kamigawa block. Dason taking a look. Not one that sees play often, but in Tortured Existence, pretty much any creature that you sacrifice is going to find its way into that deck. Golgari Brownscale gets discarded to get the Fume Spitter back. And it's getting replayed to kill off the Phyrexian Rager. So now David has his Brownscale in the graveyard, Tortured Existence on the board. So we're going to start seeing dredging and activating of the Tortured Existence. So Fume Spitter, Scars of Mirrodin block, not Kamigawa. Sacrifice, put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. And that makes sense because Scars of Mirrodin was the -1 block.
And poison.
Yeah. With infect, yeah, a lot proliferate.
Yeah.
So lots of -1/-1 counter shenanigans in that block. So Phyrexian Rager version 2.0 coming back. So taking damage, drawing card. Brownscale getting dredged. There goes a Grave Scrabbler and a swamp. David gains 2 life. Looks like we're going to see a repeat of the last turn.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly a repeat.
Yeah.
Oh, Tortured Existence. Tortured Existence only ever printed in one set, Stronghold, a long time ago. And found a very good home in Pauper. Looks like another Phyrexian Rager, I think. Can we do it 3 turns in a row? Jake, we might need an identical turn counter now.
Yeah.
There's a Choking Sands. That's going to destroy the land. And if it's a plains, it deals 2 extra damage, but it's not. It still destroys the land for it, though. So it looks like David opting to tap it to use the mana on Tortured Existence. And there goes the land. Choking Sands printed in Mirage originally, I think. Here we go again. So dredging. The green card, I want to say, is something like Talara's Battalion or something like that. I'm having a hard time remembering that one.
Hole number 3.
Here we go. I really want an identical turn counter now. We had Brainstorm for the second round.
Yeah.
How many turns in a
Second
row?
glitch in the Matrix.
Was it like this cat, or was it the same cat? Which was it?
I think it was the same cat.
Here we go, dredging. There's a Stinkweed, which is a better dredger, and a land. So he's got enough non-creatures in there now. He's getting close to being able to do a 1-mana Gurmag when he gets that back now. Which he's getting back right now. I see him tapping 1 mana. So he's going to delve away all the non-creature spell cards. So extra. That's 2. Needs to find 6. Well, 5. There's 3. 4. So he's doing 4 and paying 3 mana. Okay. Dason responds with a... Is that a 10? No, that's a 1 mana kill spell. Jake, can you tell me what spell that is? It's your deck. You better be able to tell me what spell that was. Looks like there's another copy in his hand if we can see his hand. So there's Stinkweed Imp getting dredged. So that one does 5 cards now. Geth's Verdict. Okay. Sacrifice a creature, lose 1 life. Solid card. Very similar to the Diabolic Edict we saw Alex playing in round 2. Except that this time they lose a life also. To get that, it's 2 black instead of 1 black and 1 colorless. Okay, this is a... I want to say... Eventide Morrowind card on David's side. I don't remember the name of it exactly though. Tilling Treefolk from Morrowind. When it comes into play, return up to 2 target land cards from a graveyard to your hand. Okay. It's a 1/3. Which finds itself in a prison very quickly. How you imprison a tree, I don't know. But Dason's doing it. So here's a Dredge for 5. That was an Elvish Visionary was the first card. Grave Scrabbler. And that's an Eldritch Moon card. It enables Delirium. I'm not 100% on it anymore though. Looks like he's Tortured Existence with the Stinkweed Imp. He's eyeing the Angler, I think. Grabbing the Satyr Wayfinder. So that'll probably get played now. Because he wants to get something on the board to put pressure on Dason. Flips Existence, Land, Commune, No creatures. That would be a dead weight. Is the fourth card. Enchantment. Creature gets -2/-2. So no creatures on that one, but plenty of stuff to delve away for an angler. Disfigure is going to give the Wayfinder -2/-2. That's basically the same card as Deadweight, except it's an instant. Deadweight's an aura. 5 mana sounds like Gary, which is going to be 4 damage. Because the Weeblyette is in play on Dason's side, technically. Now, I'm not sure why Dason was moving the guest's verdict over there, showing him that card. He might have just been indicating, hey, that's my Weeblyette over there. Alright, so David dredging again. He got the brown scale, which means he's going to torture existence to gain some life off of that. Gets the Grave Scrabbler, which is probably going away to a tortured existence with Madness. Sets it aside to indicate the Madness trigger. There he is paying for the Madness. So he's resolving the Madness part. Madness, a keyword that came out in the Odyssey block. It worked a certain way in Odyssey, but then when they brought it back in Shadows over Innistrad,
does it work differently?
They had to reword it in the rules to fit within the newer rule sets of Magic, because the layering of it did not quite fit. So now it plays just a little bit different. In play, there's really no difference at all. But if you're playing on Magic Online, yeah, you'll see it stacks slightly differently than it used to originally. And he's using one to get back an Elvish Visionary. And he's got a Fume Spitter back with the other one. There's a guess verdict, so David's going to have to sacrifice one of them and lose 1 life. Dason doing his best to keep that board clear. Draws his own Gurmag Angler. And with Dason, once the cards are in the graveyard, they're in the graveyard pretty much. So for him, it doesn't really matter what he grabs. There's not a whole lot of ways to get stuff back. So he's got the 5/5. We saw game 1, David doesn't really have a lot of ways to get stuff off of Dason's board. We saw in this game, he can handle the 2/2s pretty well.
Yeah.
It's going to take quite a few loops with that Fume Spitter to get rid of a Gurmag Angler, though. So I'm not sure if that was David trying to preserve his life total by blocking, or if David just wants the creature in the graveyard more. Because with that deck, creatures in the graveyard seem to have much more utility to him than having them on the board.
Do he block the damage, then sack out of the block?
No, he just blocked with the Grave Scrabbler, which killed the Grave Scrabbler. And then now that it's in the graveyard, it's back in the cycle with the Tortured Existence. So he dredged back the brown scale, gained 2 life, found a Crypt Rat by using Tortured Existence to get rid of the grayscale. Now in this game, David has found a lot more lands. So he actually has, I'm counting 5 black mana available to him. Which means that Crypt Rats is more than capable of dealing with both Gary and the Gurmag Angler. Tendrils of Corruption changes that. Because right now, David does have 1 black. He could have sacked it for 1. Or he could have sacrificed it for 2 to prevent Dason from gaining life there. So putting a counter on the Angler after blocking, I'm assuming. So he will take 2 damage most likely, yep. So he blocked the Angler, sacrificed the Fume Spitter to put a counter on it. So this is game 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it feels like it's been a long one.
Yeah.
Game 1 was also a pretty long one.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they're past time.
Yeah, we've gotten time called. We're on turn 2 already. So these guys are both trying to finish this up if they can, but at this point, if nobody finishes it, Dason wins the round because he's up on game 1. So David trying to find some answers there. Cryptorats is back in play.
Nope.
Now he can pay 1 to sacrifice it. He's not doing it though, and that's just Dason is getting big.
Maybe he doesn't see that 1 open.
It's
got that weird angle on it.
Yep. And also at 2 turns, now 3. Dason, even if he does find another Gary, that's going to deal 7.
Yeah.
David's pretty safe for 1 turn. Dason has 1 turn to kill him. So.
I don't see either one of them be able to drop a bomb big enough to finish this game.
So right now, as it stands, it's irrelevant for the Tendrils of Agony, I believe it's called. Satyr Wayfinder gets discarded to get back the Fume Spitter. Cryptrats gets cast. So does the Fume Spitter. And passing back. This will be the last turn for our tournament. Pauper. Dason updating the die. There's another Gary. That's going to deal 7.
8? 7?
Oh, Weebly has 2, but Gurmag is only 1. So that's 7-point swing. And then an attack for 5. And David takes 0 on the attack. Yep. That's the game. Dason taking it with Jake's deck. 1 game to none. So
we'll say this: both of those decks, being kind of fairly new to Pauper myself, both decks are extremely interesting to watch.